Hello, guten Tag und grüß Gott. Today is Sunday, April the 3rd, 2022. Yes, I had to get that 2 back in there. Anyway, so March is totally gone. March Madness is gone. I think the playoffs are in progress right now, but March Madness is definitely gone, and all of the college basketball teams, have found their place. And anyway, I don't really follow that so much because, I always think, that somebody will be kneeling, and then it would just piss me off. But anyway, the news cycle seems to just have one drum beat nowadays. And the drum beat is that the Russians are sustaining heavy losses and the Ukrainians suffer. And sure as hell, all of that is true, but that just keeps going through the newspapers, like every day. The Russians are sustaining heavy losses. But I want to tell you something about the Russians, and I mentioned that to my son lately, that the Russians don't give up easily. I remember that when they invaded Germany after in 1945. They sustained heavy losses, but they just didn't quit. I tell you that much. The thing is that this situation is a little bit different because, and my son Patrick pointed that out, that, the Russians are not fighting for their homeland so much as they are now the invader. Or at least everybody thinks of them in terms of invading. And Putin, the Russian president, premier, whichever he is right now, because he switches between these offices so he can stay in power forever and still maintain some sort of semblance of following their Russian constitution. Putin hasn't convinced everybody that they're actually fighting for Russian soil. Now, a lot of people may be convinced of that because they look at the Ukrainians and say, well, that's Russian soil as well. But to all of the Western nations and NATO and so forth, we're not buying that. The Ukrainians have had their government for quite a while now, since the fall, which was 1991 or so, 1990s, when the Russian USSR fell basically and disintegrated and split off into all of these independent countries, like Romania, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, etc., and they all began to just simply govern according to how they felt. So, and Putin never accepted that, that the USSR, just kind of disintegrated, and he actually called it the greatest geopolitical disaster of modern times, So, so now he's pretty much on a trajectory to regain the USSR. At least some of the thinking in the West is that way, although we don't know exactly what Putin is up to. We do know that he invaded the Ukraine, and and things are not going very well, unless he simply expected things to not go very well, and he's now digging in for the long haul. In fact, Russian envoys and the Ukrainians are having peace talks in Istanbul. Turkey offered themselves up as, the place to be talking about it. And one of the headlines last week actually said that Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, offered neutrality, just to kind of stop, the shooting, the killing, the destruction in the Ukraine. And the Russians say, yeah, that's a really good idea, And in fact, we're allowing some of the we're giving a corridor so that the civilians can kind of escape and so forth. And this is the talk from the Russians, but what's happening on the ground is something totally different, because they're still bombing, they're still shelling, artillery-wise. And now that the Ukrainians have actually sort of recaptured some territory, they're finding that the civilians have been dumped into mass graves, dead civilians have been dumped into mass graves, some of them, or maybe all of them, with their hands bound in the back. And, it's a freaking tragedy. That's what's going on. Now, those are civilians, so non-combatants, so that really rubs us the wrong way. And there will be something to pay for some of these people, that are going to be involved once the Hague crimes to humanities trials will start. And I'm sure that this is the kind of thing, that will not go unnoticed. The Holocaust in Germany and elsewhere, did not go unnoticed, and so will this not get unnoticed. And I don't know what's going to happen with Putin. Elon Musk said that Putin has got more money than he, and Elon is on his way to become the first trillionaire. So there you have that. Well, that's what dominates the news cycle right now, and every one of us, is talking about the Russians and the poor Ukrainians. There was a country of about 40 million or so, and 10 million are now on the way to become refugees. So 1/5 of the country, is basically, or 1/4 to 1/5 of the country is basically being displaced. And some of them are arriving in Tijuana in Mexico, trying to get in the United States. And of course, Poland is taking the brunt of this because their border with Ukraine. And by the way, I just wanted to mention real quickly that I have my wife Marge here. And say hello, Marge.
Hello.
There she is. She keeps an eye on me to make sure that I don't stray too badly. Another important issue at this time is that we were all worried about what's happening with Chernobyl, because the Russians, of course, invaded and took Chernobyl and took possessions of it. And what we were told in the West is that now the Ukrainians are operating the nuclear plant there at gunpoint with the Russians. So the recent headline said that the Russians just kind of gave it away back to the Ukraine and say, have at it, just keep running it. And it's the same people that have been running, but evidently under the Russian watch, and they've been, have been forced to just continually work and had hardly any sleep. And, it probably occurred to the Russians that they're now heading into dangerous territory because, you have a bunch of people that are responsible for all these nucleides and and the all of the stuff that can cause us problems for the next 25,000 years. If somebody makes some mistakes and like there was before, that may be a serious global problem. And so they probably saw that they needed to do something about that. Like, hey, let's let them run that thing and let them have some sleep, let them have food and all that kind of stuff, So anyway, so Chernobyl, the nuclear plant, that has all of the had all of the problems back in the 1980s, with the breakouts and causing all kinds of clouds of radioactive material to drift over Europe and the rest of the world. And we were all worried about it. As a matter of fact, I remember buying a Geiger counter at the time, to see, just how bad this is, because it's, I didn't make any videos at the time. I wish I had the capability, with, what I have right now in order to be able to kind of record this and, store it in the eternal cloud, I guess, right? Anyhow, that's really the big story. But we also had the Oscar awards just very recently, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, last week, last weekend actually. And we had a really interesting incident happen, and that is that Will Smith, of fame of Men in Black and How the West Was Won, all kinds of wonderful movies, and he was also the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. So he's a well-renowned actor, and I don't know whether what's going to happen to him now, because the guy walked up to the host, who was Chris Rock, and smacked him really hard in the face, right during the actors. In other words, he assaulted the host of the actors, and then called him a bunch of names, and there were F words flying all over the place, and, I mean, from out of his mouth, and it was just really bad behavior. So what's happened since then, evidently, the people that surrounded him said, "Hey, you're really fucked up. This is really bad news. So what you got to do is you got to apologize, okay?" And so now, mind you, so this, he writes these apologies, and they're very eloquent. They're good apologies. This was a reprehensible act. Should have never happened. And I deeply apologize to the Academy, to the public, to Chris Rock, to just being apologetic and all that kind of stuff. But let's remember what's happening here. Is this guy, when after this particular incident, when the Academy or the people from the Academy asked him to leave because they shouldn't be condoning the kind of physical violence in that solemn event, when all of the actors are being honored. They just simply, he just simply told them, well, no, I'm not leaving, when they asked him to leave. So he went and accepted his own his own Oscar for, what was it? It was King Richard, I guess, and evidently he did a really good job. I always liked him. But this is probably the last time you hear me talk about him, unless, he does something else that is screwy, then I may mention it again. But what an asshole, I mean, that's my judgment on this case. He should have not done that. Should have not walked up and strike the man that is, Chris Rock, a comedian, who happened to make a comment about his wife, who has a problem with losing their hair. And so she came and looked bald, and Chris Rock said something about G.I. Jane, and there was a film, with a woman, what was her name, the actress?
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore shaved her head, and so it was an allusion to that particular movie, G.I. Jane, and I don't remember the words that he said. I don't know whether you do or not, but
G.I. Jane 2 coming soon. Way to go, Jada.
Yeah, so you heard it. We used to really enjoy watching the Oscars. In fact, my wife Marge, and especially when Sister Pat was alive, they used to go and watch all of the nominees, all of the movies that were nominated. I think they had Monday movie night or something like that, or Monday movie day. And so they watched all of the nominated movies, and then they watched the awards, and they were able to talk about it. And it was great fun. And now I'm kind of sad to say that Marge doesn't have anybody to talk much about it, because I'm not big on movies, and I don't pay any attention to these guys. All of Hollywood, to me looks like a bunch of liberal, if not communists. So I just don't have much more to, you know. It's not that I'm against movies. I love movies, and these people are doing a great job, you know, and being actors and all that. But they've taken a political stance that is totally opposite to mine, and so there we are. You know, we're all supporting our own narratives, and I support mine. So I'm my wife Marge is kind of alone on that, you know. So she's watching. You know, when she says, "Well, the Oscars are on," and I say, "Well, yeah."
I didn't watch them.
But this time she didn't watch him either because there's just too much leftist dribble coming out of Hollywood, I think, altogether, you know. So,
Before you move on, why don't you tell people what's wrong with your arm?
oh, yeah, so I got tennis elbow, and, you know, so there's this little device, you know, that I'm wearing, which is kind of interesting, you know. It's I've had to do that before because somehow, you know, many years ago I had tennis elbow a couple of times, you know, and this when you have tennis elbow, or when I have tennis elbow, that goes on for months. And so I have a workout routine, you know. I do my push-ups and I work out with dumbbells, and I found out that I couldn't lift the dumbbells and with my left arm, and so it became a problem. But I looked for some sort of a brace that I used to wear years ago, but I guess it kind of disappeared in the stuff that we have around here. So I couldn't find it. I had to go out and get another one. And this is it. And as a matter of fact, they made an improvement to this, and I tried it out, and I can lift my weights, and you know, it's basically pain-free. As soon as I take it off, the pain's back again. So I know that I have to rest my left arm with this brace for, I don't know, months now. Anyway, so much about me. I just have one more thing, and probably shows my political proclivities. And I noticed this in the Wall Street Journal under the title, Slavery Reparations Plan Sparks Acrimony. So, here's what happened. In 2017, the U.S. leader of the Society of Jesus, I'm going to just read this because it's I don't think that I can paraphrase it any better than it is here written. The Society of Jesus, Jesuits, stood before cameras at Georgetown University, apologized for the Jesuits' sale of 272 slaves to 3 Louisiana plantations in 1838. "We have greatly sinned," said Reverend Timothy Kasicki. Georgetown rechristened a campus dormitory once named for a long-ago school president who had helped arrange the sale. The former Mulledy Hall was now to be called Isaac Hawkins Hall, after the enslaved patriarch of the 272. One of Mr. Hawkins' 5th great-granddaughters felt anxious and skeptical as she participated in the ceremony. Mary Williams Wagner, a retired IT manager living in Arizona, represented a group of nearly 100 relatives pushing for monetary compensation from the Jesuits. Nobody on the podium mentioned the idea. So she is saying, we were just pawns, she recalled. They had a script, and they wanted us to give that to the press.
And which one of them were slaves?
Yeah, which one of them were slaves? She was an IT manager. Anyway, so they were just told to present it to the media, and we were just props in their show. So the article goes on and on about this. But what I want to leave here in my particular vlog is that this was 5 years ago, right? Approximately. And they're still arguing about this.
California's got a piece of legislation to give every black in the state a big chunk of money to increase their wealth to get them up to the standards of living of whites.
Okay. So this entire issue, here is Ms. Wagner's point, is this is a black issue, okay? And they were the ones that were pushing this, and they're the ones that are actually, want to be in charge of what's happening in terms of reparations and who's to get them and how it's going to happen. But you know what? It's the white people in the university, out of whatever guilds or whatever, that are taking over that entire project. So this is what they're really unhappy about, is that this was, supposedly a groundswell from black people. Like, she represented 100 people that said, hey, maybe we ought to get some reparations. But now they have no say in it anymore, because the California legislature has taken that over, and there are legislatures all over the place. So I just have a feeling that this is going to remain a bone of contention for a long time. So actually, I wanted to make this video about family and friends and whatnot. And it turned out to be just a totally political and historical video. But I think...
You've only been talking 7 minutes.
Well, according to what I see here is 21 minutes. So I've been at it a lot longer than I think that I have been at it. So maybe this is just about enough for now?
No,
Unless you
Dad.
have something else?
No, talk about what you wanted to talk about.
Oh, that was it. That was just about it. I just wanted to make sure that in Germany we call it the zeitgeist, is kind of captured in this time period of what we're thinking about, what's going on, how we feel about things, and all of that is my opinion, Marge's opinion, Patrick's opinion, and things that we read, and that we think about. And maybe somebody in decades from now is going to look at this and say, well, that was kind of strange, what were they thinking about? Why were they even concerned about that? Here we are colonizing our planetary system and reaching out to, Proxima Centauri, our next galaxy, We figured out how to travel near the speed of light, and we might actually get there in like 4 or 5 years or whatever. Look at some other planets. And maybe we'll have bodies out of titanium. I know they're really working on my wife, Marge. She's got a whole fixture of titanium in her back right now that's holding her up. And so now she also had a knee replacement, and there's more titanium. And now we're thinking, she says today, my left hip really hurts. And I thought, oh, wow, here we go with more titanium. It's a good thing that we have titanium. Anyway, I think I'm just going to cut this off for now, and I think it was fun. So with that, I bid you farewell, and we must infect the universe with us.